Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So we have successfully completed chapter number 7 and now we are entering into chapter 8. We request you immediately after the session, you can go to the website and complete the quiz for chapter 7. It has already been uploaded. So let's see now chapter 8. Total it has 28 verses and this chapter is known as Attaining the Supreme. So previous one was knowledge about the absolute truth, and now how do I attain him? How do I reach him? So that is the subject under discussion here. We see that it is divided into 4 sections. The first section is Arjuna's question. So Arjun basically asks 8 questions and then Krishna replies these 8 questions in the balance of the chapter. So let us begin with the first section, the first verse which Arjuna asks.
Arjuna Vacha, Kim Tad Brahma Kim Adhyatmam, Kim Karma Purushottama, Adibhutam Cha Kim Proktam, Adidevam Kim Uchyate.
Arjun Uvacha, Arjun inquired, Kim Tad Brahma, what is this Brahma? Kim Adhyatmam, what is the self? Kim Karma, what are the fruitive activities, O Purushottam? Adibhutam cha kim proktam. What is Adibhutam or what is this material manifestation? Cha kim proktam Adidevam. What is Adidevam or what are these demigods? Please explain this to me. So Arjun is asking 5 questions here in this verse number 1. Let's see verse number 2.
Adi yagya katham kotra, Dehesmin madhusudana, Pravyana kale cha katham, Geyosi niyatatmabhi. Who is the Lord of sacrifice, Adi Yagya? And how does he live in the body? Kotra dehe asmin. So how does he live in the body, the Lord of sacrifice? O Madhusudan. And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? So how they can know you prayana kale? So this is, Arjuna wants more clarification. So we see here that in the last 2 verses of the 7th chapter, Krishna used 6 technical terms. He used Brahman, he used Adhyatma, he used Karma, Adibhut, Adideva, Adi Yagya. So these are the 6 words Krishna used in the previous chapter. And Arjuna is asking clarification about them, and then he asked 2 additional questions. I will just look at these. So Arjuna was asking about Adhyatma, the Brahman, Adhyatma, Adibhut, Adidev, Adi Yagya, and Prayana Kale. So these are the 6 topics that Arjuna asked in the previous chapter.
In this chapter, Krishna mentions these 6 topics in the previous chapter, and Arjun is picking up those specific words and raising a question there.
Thank you, Sugita. So Brahman, Adhyatma, Adibhut, Adidev, Adi Yagya, and Prayan Kali at the time of death. So these are the 6 things which Krishna talks about in the previous chapter and the 7th chapter. Now Arjuna is asking about those, more clarification on these 6 points, and he adds 2 more. He adds Karma and he adds where does Adi Yagya reside. So these are 2 additional questions apart from those 6 things that Arjuna asks. So Arjuna is asking the clarification, and the beautiful thing is that in next 2 verses, Krishna will answer 7 of those questions, right? And the 8th question he will discuss in detail in the rest of the chapter. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all this is discussed in the next 2 verses, which we'll complete the session with. And the 8th point, how to remember Krishna at the time of death, Krishna will discuss in the balanced chapter. So I hope all of this is clear.
Shri
Bhagavan Uvacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Svabhavodhyatmam Uchyate Bhuta Bhavodbhava Karo Visarga Karma Samgitaha.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible transcendental living entity is called Brahma, and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma or fruitive activities. So 3 of the questions are getting answered here in this verse. So he is answering what is Brahma. So Brahma is indestructible, transcendental living entity, which means he's referring to the Jivatma. He's referring to us. He's referring to the soul. So he's telling that Brahma is that. And then he's saying, what is Adhyatma? So Adhyatma Krishna is defining as the eternal nature. So how we keep repeating, Jivera Swarup Hoy Krishnera Nityadas, that the eternal nature of the living entity is to serve the Supreme Lord. So that is what Krishna is saying, that Adhyatma refers to his eternal nature. Then the third question was about karma. What are the karma or fruitive activities? So Krishna tells here, actions pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities. So what happens is that we do certain actions, and on the basis of what actions we do, we get the next body, right? And then we do certain actions, and again on the basis of the actions what we are doing, we get another body. So Krishna is telling that actions pertaining to the development of material bodies of living entities called karma or fruitive activity.
So actually, sometimes I ask this question, what are we doing right now? What are we doing right now? We are sitting listening to class, okay? What are we doing right now? In our 24 hours, last 1 week, last 1 month, what are we doing? We are actually preparing our next body. So whatever we are doing now, it'll, with all those material karmas, will give us our next material body. Adibhutam ksharo bhava purushaschaधिदैवतम् adiyagyoham evatra dehe deha vritam vara. O best of the embodied beings, the physical nature which is constantly changing is called Adibhut, the material manifestation. So here Krishna is explaining the first verse here, Adibhut, and what is he saying? That it is the physical nature what is constantly changing. So sometimes, we discuss from where does the flower come? Seed comes from the flower, from the fruit. Where does the fruit come from? Fruit comes from the flower. Flower comes from the plant. Where does the plant come from? Comes from the seed. Where everything comes from nature. Where does nature come from? Most people get stuck there. They don't have an answer. Where does nature come from? Nature comes from nature. It is like so. They are confused. So here Krishna will explain that about nature. So he's saying what is constantly changing. So we see that this nature is constantly changing. And we see also that our body is also made up of Prakriti, the elements from Prakriti, and we see that this body also constantly change. So material nature, material world is characterized by constant change. And it of course comes from the Supreme Lord. So this is the first word, Adibhut, where Krishna is saying this constantly changing material nature is called Adibhut, and Krishna is the Lord of that. Second is the universal form of the Lord, which includes all the devatas, like those of the sun and moon, is called Adidev. So Adidev means the universal form of the Lord. The universal form of the Lord, which we will see a little later on the request of Arjuna, Krishna will show his universal form, Virat Roop. And there Arjuna can actually, from his Divya Chakshu, he can see the different devatas in that Virat form of the Lord. So how we understand that actually all those devatas are also subservient to the Lord. And finally, Adi Yagyo. So Krishna is saying, I, the Supreme Lord, represented as the super soul in the heart of every living, every embodied being, am called Adi Yagya. So Krishna answers both these questions. Adi, who's Adi Yagya and where does he reside? So Krishna explains that I am the Adi Yagya and I reside as super soul in the heart of the living entity. So these are the 7 questions which Krishna has answered in the last 2 verses. We will just do a review. 1.
Brahma is the indestructible living entity. So we all are being referred by Krishna as Brahma. Adhyatma is the eternal nature, and the nature as we described is to serve the Supreme Lord. Karma is the activity which generates our next body. Adibhut is the Prakriti or the material world which we see around us, which is constantly changing. So the physical world around us, that is Adibhut. Adidev is the universal form of the Lord. So universal form encompasses all the different demigods also. So when Arjun had the darshan of that universal form of the Lord, he could actually see all various demigods as well included in that universal form. So Krishna says that is Adi Dev. Adi Yagya is Krishna residing as Paramatma. And where does he reside? So he resides in the heart of all living entities. So this is how Krishna has completed giving the answer and satisfying his student Arjuna for 7 of his queries. And the most important and significant, for which we are actually studying Bhagavad Gita, the purpose of whole Bhagavad Gita is how to remember Krishna at the time of death. So that is the question which you have to read for the next session. So the next session reading is at least till verse number 20. Kindly read from 5 to 20 and we will see how many verses we can cover. But that's a very, very important and interesting section where Krishna is answering that question. There was no memory verse in today's session, so we did not mark it. So with this, we complete today's session, and also there are a couple of announcements. So as I said, that the quiz has been uploaded up there on the Study Gita website. So kindly log in through your registered email ID, go to the Study Gita page and get into GMC chapter 7. You will find the quiz. It is good that you complete the quiz now itself. Otherwise, if you will wait for the entire trimester to get over, and then you may forget what you have done in chapter number 7. So we request you to take the quiz today, and we monitor also. So we keep asking our backend support that how many people have done and which are all those names. So we'll be very happy to see that you complete the quiz. And today evening we have our regular Q&A session, and apart from that there is a bonus session today evening. So I have been invited by ISKCON Chennai to speak there. The topic given is Back to Godhead. So those of us who are interested, so this is an extra bonus service for me. So you all can also join. Most welcome. We'll be sharing the details. It'll be there at our YouTube channel, so you can join in there. For the Back to Godhead session, the session is at 7 p.m. IST. So thank you all very much. It was wonderful having you. We are here for a few more minutes if someone has to speak something, but officially we are closing the session here.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Srila Prabhupada
Ki Jai.